Our creative discussion can be found on pages 198 through 214 in your Essentials book, and we will be talking about all the various components to helping children to explore their creativity and feel free to share their creativity. When we think about creativity, I guess we once thought that it was really something that only a few people really were given the gift of. And obviously, we are drawn to people who can sing perfectly, or people who can dance very gracefully, or persons whose drawings or artwork is very realistic. But our role in an early childhood classroom is not to kind of talent scout or to find what we think is the best of the work, or the child who can sing the best, etc. Our job is to encourage and foster every child's creativity, regardless of how we perceive the product of it. And that's kind of the quote that I want you to remember. The process is more important than the product. And one of our discussion boards is about that very topic. When I think about what that means, the process is more important than the product, I feel like that's saying to us that in a child's display of creativity, whether it is in their artwork, or it's building a block structure, or it's dancing to music, or singing a song, the process of them doing that, the process of them moving their body, the process of them thinking through how to build that block structure that they're visualizing in their head, or how to create that rainbow that they thought when they went to the art area they wanted to draw, and they had to think through, what do I need to make that? What colors do I need? How should I make the marks on the paper for it to look like a rainbow? All of those things, all of the steps or the process it took them to come to the end result, the product, the steps and the process are more important in their learning and in their development than what the end product looks like. As an early childhood educator, it's our job to make sure that we are discovering and nurturing every child's creativity, so that they can grow and expand their creative abilities in any avenue that they are choosing to show that outlet. Some of the things that we have to think about is that a child's creative possibilities are limited when the environment doesn't allow them to explore as they need to get messy, to access materials independently and not rely on adult assistance, or when they're told where they need to play or for how long that they can play there. For example, in some classrooms, every 15 minutes the children rotate learning centers, rather than they choose where they want to go and they can play there the whole free playtime if they choose to. When we start putting limitations on them, then we limit their creative possibilities. Some of the ideas that we're going to be exploring in this chapter are environments that will promote creativity in the children, how to encourage creativity through your daily interactions and experiences, how to promote visual arts, and how to promote creativity through music and movement and dance, and then creativity through dramatic play and story retelling. In your textbook on page 200 to 202, we are going to discuss environments that will promote creativity. First, we'll talk about infant-toddler settings, and then we'll talk about preschool settings. With all of the age groups, what we need to remember is there's a huge connection between curiosity and creativity. As humans, we are just innately curious about the world around us, Infants and toddlers especially will explore using all of their senses. And so we want to provide as many new and safe materials for them to explore as possible. It's really important for us to allow them the opportunity to make new discoveries and to learn about the world. Some of the ways that we can do that, besides providing a variety of materials, we need to make sure that those things are within their reach for the children to be able to access them on their own and independently explore them. Obviously, those need to be safe things. It can include toys, it can be teething rings, rattles, squeaky toys, stacking items, soft blocks or small lightweight blocks. There are other things that we can place in various containers or down low for the children. We can have shakers that make noise or books so that mobile infants can reach them and use them independently. Being able to explore all these varieties of items helps an infant to learn about the toys and to learn that toys have different purposes and to start to develop their interests and their creativity. For your toddlers, though, they tend to be really creative in the way that they explore and manipulate objects. So if they're given some encouragement, these toddlers enjoy solving problems and they're motivated to learn new things. So we really want to give them the freedom and the opportunity to explore safely all of the materials that are provided for them in the classroom. Now, they too like to learn through their five senses. So a variety of things like crayons and collage materials and clay and finger paint will allow them to start to explore those types of mediums. But you want to look at the materials that you're providing in your classroom and reflect on how can they use it or how can they manipulate it? What can they do with it? Are you providing things that engage all five senses? Generally speaking, we're really good at making sure there are lots of things that they can touch and feel, lots of things that they can see. But are we as good at making sure that there are things that they can hear and things that it's okay for them to mouth, and then things for them to smell? They love to discover how different things smell, and so are we providing those types of opportunities? Our job is to support the children in using materials in various ways. And so it's sometimes about us looking at how they are exploring and understand that they are trying to learn and to follow interest and be curious through those materials and allow them that creativity to figure out about those materials. At the bottom of page 201 and all of page 202 is a chart talking about fostering creativity in preschool classrooms, and it goes through each of the learning centers that might be provided in your classrooms and how those areas would promote creativity. We assume that the art area is a creative space, and we assume that because I think we know that there's a finished product there. But there are so many ways that children can be creative in every other area of the classroom. The block area is extremely creative. They're over there building and pretending. They're visualizing what they want to make with those blocks. They might be building a farm or a bridge, and they're interacting with each other, and pretend play is occurring. In the literacy center, there's lots of creativity because they may be retelling stories. They may be writing stories. They could be creating or drawing stories on a computer. They could act out stories using puppets or finger play type things, learning rhymes and poems, and retelling books or reading the books themselves. All of those things foster creativity. And then, of course, dramatic play is an area where they're doing a lot of pretend playing. They're learning what it feels like to be other people. You can provide things in that area. Of course, the things that are typical are home living type things and dolls, but we can provide dress up clothes. We can provide an area of that dramatic play that is ever changing. Like this week it is a veterinarian's office, but next week it's a a beauty parlor, and the week after it's a doctor's office or a farmer's market, or a restaurant, and so it provides a variety of pretend play. Obviously, music and movement. They're singing, they're dancing, they're listening to music. The science area allows them opportunities to explore and to discover. They can brainstorm ways to solve problems, or it challenges them to discover new things. Math and manipulative offers creativity in the fact that it allows them um, to set up their own rules for games, to have open-ended materials that they can build or manipulate any way that they can come up with. They get the opportunity to figure out how to use tools. In sand play, they can find things that are buried in sand, so they're using their senses there. They get to predict what's going to happen if I put this in the water, will it sink or float? What's going to happen if I put that in the water, will it sink or float? There's an opportunity to play with many open-ended props there. When we put various items into the sand or water table, sometimes you might have boats in there, sometimes you might have plastic insects in there. There's a whole variety of things that could be there. In the outdoor area, the play area outside, children can pretend play with one another and the props that you take out there. You can take musical instruments out, you can take books out, you can take babies and strollers out. You can blow bubbles with the children and provide a variety of ways for them to be able to explore those. You can take large banner paper and hang it on the playground fence and take out a variety of mediums for them to paint with while they're outside. And so it's all about us figuring out what it is that will promote the creativity and us providing those experiences for the children and not placing limitations on them. Keeping it in a manner that they are safe, but that they are allowed to explore with open-ended possibilities. Let's talk about a few things that are sometimes used in preschool settings that I believe teachers think are going to foster creativity, but in reality they really may hinder creativity. And those are things like coloring sheets, ditto sheets or workbook sheets, and stencils. Those things are all limiting in a child's creative process. When a child's using a coloring sheet, they don't get to imagine what they want to create on that paper. It's already there for them, and their only responsibility is to color it. And so those things are limiting to their creativity. If we want it to be true art, we need to just give them open-ended materials and let them create whatever they would like to create. For all the age groups, infant, toddler, and preschool children, it is really important that we support their art and creative development through making sure that their artwork is neatly displayed in the classroom. That gives them a sense of accomplishment and a sense of pride in their work, and they know that we appreciate what they have created. Some tips for you as you are engaging with children as they explore their creativity. You can ask questions, lots of open-ended questions. You can make comments or describe their actions out loud. So you can, if you're with a child in the art area and they're painting, you may say, "Oh, I can see you mixed the green and blue paint, and look, you made a new color." Or you can make sure that instead of them copying a model, which is not okay, we never want to have a sample or a model for them, that we focus on the children's interest and their exploration and encourage them to be original in their work. We want them to use open-ended art materials for creating. We don't want them to have a sample and they're trying to create that. We can think about how the children might use new materials in a new way or an interesting way, exciting way, rather than just thinking about the most common way that medium would be used. Um, One of the things that I like to encourage is that if a child is working on something, whether it is a piece of artwork or a block structure, and it's cleanup time, they're so devastated because they're not finished with that. And so is there a way that we can help them to have an opportunity to finish that? Can we put that piece of artwork up and allow them to come back to it later? Can we move that block structure and save it to another time so that they can finish it? Or can we take a picture of it and say, tomorrow I will help you rebuild this and we will look at the picture so that we will know how to do it, and then you can go on from there. And we want to make sure that we have time for them to explore, that they're not rushed in their creativity. And so this is one of the reasons why doing art during small group is not really effective. First of all, they may not feel like being creative right then. And secondly, it does put a time limit on them. They can only stay there for so long before they have to move on. And even if they're not finished with it, they have to stop. It is also something that you need to think about as far as art in small group, that for a child who may be afraid to explore their creativity, they may feel limited, and so they may just try to create whatever the person beside of them is creating rather than being original because maybe they feel intimidated by that. So those are just a few things to think about when you're interacting with them. Visual arts are the things that you would generally see children doing in the art area. Things like drawing and painting and sculpting, working with clay. They may be creating collages or mobiles. And all of those things are expressions of their creativity. The visual arts will allow a child to create something new. It gives them an opportunity to be original and to fulfill their need, possibly to communicate their thoughts and ideas. Often if children have something that they're thinking about inside and they don't know how to express themselves, they will draw or paint a picture to express how they're feeling. It's really important that those open-ended materials are left available for them within their reach and that they have an opportunity every day to use those mediums to create with. Now, it's really important that we understand, and we talked about this when we met together in class on June the 14th, about the difference between something that is creative and then or art and something that is a craft. A craft has a final product, and there are guidelines to how to create the craft. There's steps, and they're restricted because it's going to look like this in the end. But art, as opposed to that craft, art is open-ended. They're using whatever materials they want to create whatever they want. It's an original piece of work. On page 205, there are 4 steps to children's explorations in drawing and painting. The first step is random scribbling, and that generally occurs between 15 months to 2.5 years. And this is when children just take the crayons or markers and figure out that if they move it on the paper, it's going to leave marks. May grow into squiggles, and the children get really excited about that, and we should keep encouraging those scribbles. And then the second stage is more controlled scribbling, and that usually happens between the ages of 2 and 3. And this is when children are gaining hand control over the marker or crayon or whatever they're using. they're starting to put it between their thumb and forefinger rather than just grabbing it in a fist. Their scribbles at this stage turn more into shapes like circles or lines, um, instead of just haphazardly touching the paper randomly. The third stage is lines and patterns, and this is usually between 2.5 and 3.5 years. This is when children realize that they can convey some sort of message or meaning through their drawing. So they're going to work harder to create curves and lines that they see in a real object. And then the fourth stage happens between 3 and 5 years. And this is pictures of objects or people. This is when they can put all those circles and lines and shapes together to create something. Now, the earlier these drawings, they are sometimes unplanned. It just kind of happens, and then as the children realize what they've done, they gain more control over that. They may have come to a place at least by the end of that 3 to 5 years where they're intentionally drawing what they have in mind. They sit down and maybe they draw a picture of their family, and that's what they intended. They were thinking that, and then they can do it. Some other fun art activities that can be done rather than those crafty type things are collages, where children can tear or cut out pictures or tissue paper or construction paper and glue it onto another paper or cardboard. Modeling clays and Play-Dohs, where they can make sculptures and they can cut out letters or shapes with cookie cutters. Three-dimensional constructions, which have become very popular in classrooms, where they can build things that are like a structure or a sculpture, or they can make a mobile to be hung, and those have a three-dimensional effect. Weaving could be using pot holders, pot holder loops or looms. They can weave laminated paper through a cut piece where they can laminate it in and out. And then woodworking, where they can actually glue or saw pieces of wood together. And of course, this would be under adult supervision. So what we have to think about is how can we support children's exploration in the creative realm. It's really important for us to understand that we set the tone. Our openness to their individual creativity, our ability to provide interactions and materials to encourage their creativity, allowing for a hands-on, open-ended exploration to occur from the children, is really what gives them the freedom to go through their own creative process. As I said earlier in the PowerPoint, and as you'll discuss in the discussion board, their process of figuring out and of demonstrating their creativity is more important than what the final product could be. So let's talk about creativity through music, movement, and dance. In a classroom where there's lots of singing and music playing and movement and dance occurring, the children are also being supported in their physical, language, and literacy, as well as cognitive and social emotional development. Because as they're singing and dancing and playing instruments with one another, they're practicing all of those other areas of development. It's really important that we have lots of opportunities for these types of experience every day. So let's talk a little bit about singing and sparking musical creativity and music and movement. Singing is a really simple way that we can introduce children to musical creativity. We need to make singing an opportunity both for group fun and then for individual expression. Some of the things that you can do that are really important in the children's creative development are to sing songs as part of your daily routine. It can be during transitions. It can be while they're washing hands. Incorporate singing into group meetings. So when you have your circle time, make sure that you always sing a song or two with the children. Play games that include singing, like the Hokey Pokey or London Bridge. Um, read or sing song-based books such as Wheels on the Bus Go Round and Round, which comes in book version and as a song. And one of the things that I have to remind people is that they get real nervous about singing with the children, but the children don't care. They don't care if you can't sing well. They just enjoy singing. And over my years of observing in classrooms and working in classrooms, what I will tell you is that classrooms where there's a lot of singing, there tends to be a lot less guidance issues and a lot happier tone in the classroom. Some other fun things you can do with singing: to make up songs with the children. Maybe that even narrate what's going on in the classroom or what the child is doing. Recording the children as they sing so that they can listen to that is very fascinating to them. You can sing out of a class songbook or a favorite songbook. Encourage children to sing spontaneously. If you know someone, you or a colleague who plays an instrument, invite them in to play while the children are singing, and then let the children stand up while they sing so that they can really feel the music. And one of the things that I do is I'll take little toilet paper tubes and the little styrofoam balls, and I glue the ball on the top of the toilet paper tube, and then I cover the tube in felt and make a microphone. And there's enough of those for every child in the room. So when they stand up and sing, they hold that microphone and they sing into it, and it's like they are performing a concert, and they get so excited about that. So if we really want to spark musical creativity, some of the things that we need to do is make sure that we provide a space for music and movement, that the children are free to go there and use. We need to have musical instruments accessible at all times. And this is something that I see ignored in a lot of classrooms because the teachers feel like it's too noisy. But if it's out there all the time, the children will learn how to use them appropriately. If they think they're not going to see those instruments again for a month, sure, they're going to play them really loud and for as long as they can because they know they're going to be put away. When they know that they're there every day, they learn better to use them in a more appropriate manner. Movement props like dancing ribbons or dancing scarves, shakers that they can dance with, those things are all appropriate. When you do provide musical instruments, make sure that you provide a variety that represent different cultures, drums, rain sticks, various things like that. You can use instruments that are store-bought and handmade, a combination of the two, so that the children can explore with both. Make sure that you have an ability for them and the materials for them to be able to listen to music, maybe on a CD or some sort of software that they can listen to. You could put music books in the music area that they can explore, and then an area where they can listen to music quietly on their own. On page 210 talks about lots of ways that you can really spur children's musical creativity, all the way from infants through preschoolers. Because music is so embedded to so many cultures, it's important for us to incorporate the various cultures represented by our children in our music areas. And so incorporating cultural dances or movements and cultural instruments like we talked about in the last little session there. It's important for us to support each culture represented within the classroom. In order for us to know this and do this, communication with our family is critical so that we can ensure that we're representing and valuing each family in our program appropriately. So when we think about creativity in dramatic play and story retelling, obviously play fosters imagination. It offers new ways for children to think and to solve problems. Dramatic play particularly helps children to understand and experiment with a variety of social roles. And so dramatic play is really important because it allows children to gradually learn to consider another person's needs or feelings and to appreciate and value perspectives and differences. And so dramatic play is super important for developing a sense of creativity and uniqueness and understanding. So we really want to encourage children and provide materials that encourages them to really delve into that imaginative, dramatic pretend play. So in your dramatic play area, you can provide a variety of dress-up clothing that represents both genders, maybe that represents a variety of cultures and roles, diverse roles in society. You can offer accessories like hats and shoes and boas and ties and jewelry, prop boxes that have unique props too, like I talked about earlier, things that a vet would use or things you would use if you were going to the beach, things that you would see in a restaurant. Provide real props, aprons, phone books, cookbooks, magazines. You can use empty food containers, tape the boxes shut. You can use empty dishwashing liquid containers, hot glue the lids on, juice containers, hot glue those lids on. You can get takeout menus from a variety of restaurants. You can get the local Mexican restaurant. You can go to a Chinese restaurant. Get those takeout menus and laminate those. So then you're representing the restaurant, but you're also throwing in the variety of cultures. Make sure that you're allowing the children enough play time that they can really get involved in their scenario before they have to clean up and be finished. Give them opportunities to revisit those same scenarios. So if today they were having a picnic, tomorrow maybe you can talk about the picnic that they had yesterday in dramatic play and, oh, wouldn't we like to go on a picnic again? Encourage them to try new ideas and new dramatic play settings. Pose problems that they can try to solve and introduce them to new materials. And make sure that you offer very specific comments, like you gave the children a good start to the day by making them breakfast. And that you would say when a child's over in dramatic play and they were feeding their babies breakfast. And then when we think about storytelling, that also facilitates a creative thinking and problem solving process. When they can retell a story that they've heard or that they created themselves or a story that's been read to them, that deepens their understanding of the story. One of the things that I really like to do with the children is to read a story, and then when we're finished reading it, take out a big poster size paper and let the children go around in the circle and start retelling the story and write down, this is what happened first, and then go from child to child and let them retell a piece of that story. It's such a fun activity for them, and then you hang that there and they'll go reread the story over and over and over. Letting them reenact a story that you're reading or that you've read with them and reenact it from what they remember about that story. Those are all very creative activities that you can include in your daily routine with the children.